Hello everybody and welcome to another video. And today I thought I'd revisit a band I haven't checked out for about 2 years now. It's been a while. And that's Jinjer. I noticed yesterday that they released a new track called Vortex. So I thought, you know what? I haven't listened to Jinjer in quite a while, so we'll have a look at that new track. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Now, like I said, I covered this band a couple of times. I think about 3 or 4 times about 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed their music. I thought they were a very, very good band. Brilliant live performance, which I think was the first video that I checked out of this, was a live performance, I think. And it was very, very impressive. And their music has always had some sort of deeper meaning in it. Most of the ones I checked out seem to be politically based. Whether that's a running theme, I'm not sure. But yeah, yesterday they released a track called Vortex. There were lyrics directly underneath the video, so they should be accurate. I've had a quick cursory look over the actual lyrics. I've not heard the track yet, but I've had a quick read over the lyrics just to see if I can see what it's about. And I've got a couple of ideas, but we shall see. So we'll jump into this track and see what we have. So this is Vortex by Jinjer. Let's have a look.
Like a lunatic, frantic, the man in the room looks so dramatic with a attitude on his right foot. The spiral traffic feels too dramatic. Too dramatic. Quiet. The man is walking around, dressed the way out he never found. And inside, there's a boiling of lead. It's rolling and rounding a bucket. Oh, how heavy is the bar?
And there we go. Vortex by Jinjer. Now, that was an interesting song. That slowly built, didn't it? You know, it started off pretty light, shall we say. You know, she had her clean vocal singing. Then she sort of progressed into something with a little more sort of grit in the vocal style, and then she went into the amazing death metal growls that she performs so flawlessly. And then they sort of mixed it up a little bit towards the end. The music is a bit more proggy than I remember them sounding, but like I said, it's been a while since I actually last listened to Jinjer. But that was a very, very proggy piece of music. But again, like her singing, that it sort of progressed and got heavier and heavier as the song went on, you know, starting off pretty light and, you know, unobtrusive, and then towards the end, you know, getting really heavy, really chuggy, you know, quite chunky music. Excuse me. But it sounded really, really good. Now, the song itself, it kind of sounds like they're talking about going crazy, like madness, or possibly even mental health, but then it also seems to be talking about the actual world itself spiraling out of control, possibly. You know, and everything sort of getting pulled into this vortex, as it were. You know, everything's just getting so messed up and spiraling out of control, so it seems. That's what it seems to be saying. I could be completely off base. Excuse me. Now, it starts out with, like a lunatic, frantic, the man in the room looks so dramatic, with the left shoe on his right foot. The spiral traffic feels too traumatic. It's a hell of a mouthful, that, just those first four lines. You know, the lunatic, frantic, a man in the room looks so dramatic, with the left shoe on his right foot, which is already sort of suggesting, you know, maybe a little bit of craziness going on here. Quiet, the man is wandering around. Where's the way out he never found? And inside, there's a ball made of lead. It's rolling and rumbling on parquet. As in, rolling around on parquet flooring. You know, but he's wandering around and never found a way out, so, you know, maybe he's trapped in his own head. Maybe he's trapped in madness, and he doesn't know how to get out of it. You know, he doesn't know how to get out of his own head, maybe. Don't know. But then this bit, it says, "Oh, how heavy is the ball. It bends his spine to the very ground. Neither his nor another. Enormous. Ludicrous. How heavy is his thought. In a half hour or so, it crushed the floor and smashed the man's toes." So how heavy is his thought? Which kind of, it almost sounds like depression weighing down on someone. You know, it's like a lead ball on his shoulders. You know, it says it bends his spine to the very ground. You know, how heavy is his thought? It crushed the floor and smashed the man's toes. And it even says how heavy is his thought? In half an hour or so, it crushed the floor and smashed the man's soul. Again, sort of maybe suggesting mental illness, you know, like something along the lines of depression, you know, crushing someone's soul. And, you know, saying earlier, you know, he was going crazy, you know, that sort of thing can really sort of play in your mind. It can drive you crazy, and it's very hard to find a way out of. Like they also said earlier, you know, he's never found a way out. So that could be what they're talking about. And with the state of the world as it is at the moment, that can be a contributing factor to people's mental states, mental health state. You know, the world being a horrible place as it is, you know, can make someone quite depressed, especially the way it's been for the last year and a half, you know, with everybody cooped up inside, and, you know, the risk of this whole thing that's been happening, you know, that's also played severe impacts on people's mental state and mental health, you know. And it carries on. Whirl through the black hole in the floor. Spin, I begin my whirl. Swirl, I am a driftwood with no strength. Spin, without soul, no will. Like a feather I travel down a spiral staircase, one more loop through abyss where stairs are erased. Like a feather I travel down a spiral staircase, falling deeper than it is, all stairs are erased. Through rapids and stones I came like water and like wind I go. Through rapids and stone I came like water and like wind I go. Spin, swirl, whirl, spin, swirl. And then she did that really awesome death growl where she just said swirl, and then it carried on whirl, spin, swirl, whirl, spin, swirl, and then the song ended. So, you know, I get the idea that this is possibly talking about depression, mental health, and the way that the world itself is having an impact on the way people are at the moment. You know, there seems to be this massive uptick in people with mental health issues these days, and it doesn't help that the world in itself is a pretty depressing place at the moment. You know, like I said, the last year and a half especially has been quite hard on people, but just the way the world is at the moment, with all this greed and all this struggle and pain and suffering that's going on, you know, like, people are struggling to find a place to live because the prices of houses, even to rent, are rising, yet people aren't getting, like, paid through employment enough to actually you know, to cope with that, you know. So whilst the prices of things are rising, people aren't getting paid enough to deal with that. Hold on a second. My phone was just going off. Anyway, you know, so, you know, the way of the world at the moment is severely affecting people's mental states. So, you know, that could be what this song is about. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. But, you know, I liked it. It was a good piece of music. Like I said, I felt it was a bit more prog sounding than I remember their music being, but I could be completely wrong. But yeah. There's obviously some meaning behind their song. I could be completely wrong. I don't know. But I liked it. I don't know what else to say on that, so I'll have to leave that as it is for the time being. Now, if anybody would like to suggest a track for me to react to, then please do so. By all means, you can drop a comment in the comment section below, or message me on my Facebook or my Instagram, or you could even message me through my Patreon, where you could also help to support this channel, which would, of course, be a great help to me. Since every piece of content I create for this channel gets immediately demonetized the moment I upload it, which is a little bit annoying, you know, but, you know, it is only fair that the bands that I talk about and the bands that I review do get recognition for the fact that I am using their work. But, you know, the fact that they get all of it, you know, bugs me just a little bit, but, you know, that's just the way it is. So, you know, if you'd like to help out the channel, that would be incredibly awesome. There is an option in Patreon where you can get your suggestion jumped to the front of the queue, should you so desire it. There is a limit on how frequently you can do that, and that's just to be fair to people who suggest tracks through more regular means such as YouTube, Facebook and Instagram comments. And if you should suggest a track through those more regular means, do know it could take me a while to get around to your suggestion, since I do get suggested so many new tracks every single day that my list grows faster than I can record the videos. But I do write down every suggestion I get, so it should get done eventually. It just might take me a while to get to it. Also, MetalHead Reacts is a proud supporter of the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, a British-based charity whose goal is to put an end to hate crimes. And one of the main facets of that is hate crimes against people of the alternative culture. And that's something that I believe in very, very strongly. And it's something that's very widely ignored. It's sort of brushed to the side and everybody kind of ignores because they don't think that it's a real problem. Whereas nothing could be further from the truth. You know, every day all around the world, people from the alternative community are getting violently and brutally attacked just purely for the fact that people don't like the idea that they listen to different music and wear different clothing. And we're not just talking about, like, insults being shouted at them from across the street or being shoulder rammed as they walk down the street. We're talking proper violent crimes where people are getting violently and brutally and physically assaulted. You know, people are getting hospitalized, sometimes with broken limbs, and sometimes even more life-threatening injuries over something so simple as their taste in music. And this has been going on for decades. This is going on for longer than I've been alive. And people still refuse to recognize it for the problem that it is. You know, nothing ever gets spoken about. Every day we hear all these other hate crimes like sexism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, religious hatred, ableism, etc. We hear these on a daily basis. From the most heinous and violent of these crimes, where someone is brutally murdered for the colour of their skin, or because of their sexual identity, or because of their religious beliefs, down to the most petty and pathetic of these crimes, where some entitled white woman is calling the police because a family of colour are having a picnic in a public space. We hear these every single day, every facet of them, every single day, in every outlet of media you can imagine. But when it comes to someone from the alternative community being violently and brutally attacked, we hear nothing. The last time there was widespread talk about this was about 14 years ago, when Sophie Lancaster and her boyfriend Rob Maltby were violently and brutally assaulted by a group of 5 or 6 people who beat them, kicked them, punched them, knocked them to the ground, and stamped on their heads so violently that they both ended up in comas. Now, Rob Maltby, he thankfully survived the attack. He was in a coma for around about a week and a half, maybe a little bit longer, but he thankfully survived. Sophie Lancaster, on the other hand, she was in a coma for 13 days before she succumbed to her injuries and she died. This young woman was 20 years old and was beaten to death by a group of people purely for the fact that they didn't like that she listened to alternative music and more alternative fashion. That was it. They judged her solely on the fact that she looked different and that she didn't like the same music as them. That was it. And she was beaten to death. Now, when this happened, this was, as it rightfully should have been, this was all over the news. But, you know, as with all things, over time, you know, other news stories came in and it sort of disappeared into the background. But that was the last time there was any widespread media coverage of this sort of thing happening. But I know for a fact, in the 15 years since that happened, there have been countless other incidents very similar to that, and nothing has been said. You know, we hear daily about some Karen calling the police because a man of colour is walking down a street that she believes he doesn't belong on. And, you know, that is an incredibly bad thing. You know, it is incredibly wrong. It's just, you know, horrible. But when it comes to someone getting violently and brutally, you know, viciously beaten to within an inch of their life, and we're not hearing about that. We're hearing about some entitled white woman just being an absolute racist. You know, where's the balance here? Yes, racism is bad. And yes, what she's doing is wrong. But surely, someone getting beaten to within an inch of their life, getting violently and brutally attacked, getting hospitalized, that deserves a little bit of attention. You know, something needs to be said, something needs to be done. But no, it's getting ignored because it's someone from the alternative culture. No one cares. That's unacceptable. A couple of years ago, there was a young woman in Glasgow, Scotland, who was running a charity gig. And at one point during the evening, she had to pop back to her home, which was a 5-minute walk away from where she was running this gig. And between leaving the venue and getting to her home, she was violently assaulted twice, and again, by a group of people. Again, a group of 4, 5, 6 people. She was violently assaulted twice. in the space of time it took from getting from the venue to her home. Violently, brutally attacked, beaten, kicked, punched, knocked to the ground, and violently attacked more. Now, thankfully, a passing taxi driver put an end to the assault. He didn't stop to see if she was okay. Once the cowards had fled, he buggered off. She didn't get help until she got back to the venue where her friends were. But thankfully, he put an end to the assault. Now, nothing was said. This wasn't in the news. This wasn't in the papers. This wasn't all over the internet. This wasn't on the TV. Nothing. Why not? This was a young woman. Again, she was about 20, 21 years old when this happened. This was a young woman in her 20s, violently assaulted by a group of people. Nothing got said because she was a member of the alternative community. If this had been racially motivated, something would have been said. If this was a homophobic attack, something would have been said. If this was religiously motivated, something would have been said. This would have been all over the news. But no. She was a member of the alternative culture. No one cares. Nothing got said. But I guarantee you, if that taxi driver hadn't put a stop to the end, to the attack, and this young woman had unfortunately lost her life in the process, then something would have been said, and that is unacceptable. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to lose their life before this sort of thing gets spoken about. We shouldn't have to wait for someone to die before something gets done. And this is what the Sophie Lancaster Foundation is all about. They want to raise more awareness of the fact that this sort of thing is happening and that we need to pay attention to it, and something needs to happen before what happened to Sophie Lancaster happens again. We can't let any more people get beaten to death over something as simple as their taste in music and clothing. It's always boggled my mind why this is a stumbling stone for so many people. What difference does it make what music someone listens to? Why do you feel the need to be so violent and antagonistic towards someone just because they have a different taste in music to you? It makes no sense, but it's happening all the time and it's getting ignored, and that needs to change. It needs to stop. Because it's a much bigger problem than people think it is. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, there's a link to their website in the description below. You can go over there, find out what they're working on at the moment, find out what their overall goal is, because they can explain it a lot better than I can. And if you can help them out in any small way, obviously don't feel obligated to do so, but if you can help them out in any small way, whether it's a small donation through their website or something as simple as one of these Sophie wristbands, maybe even one of these, they've got a whole bunch of other really cool stuff over there as well. The smallest amount can make the biggest difference, and the sooner we get more people talking about this, the sooner we get more people recognizing that this is a very big and very real problem, the sooner we can help to stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. But I'm going to leave that as it is for the time being. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.